Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Mental Warrior 22 show. You know, somewhere right now, there's a mom sitting in her driveway before she walks inside, maybe scrolling through her phone, and she's telling herself that this is her break. Somewhere there's a dad, maybe staying 2 extra hours at work, at the shop, telling himself, this is what providers do. Right now, there's a veteran, maybe on his third workout of the day, telling himself, this is discipline. Somewhere right now, there's a kid behind a closed door with headphones on, telling their parents, I just need some space. You know, we talk a lot about self care. We take a break, we protect our peace. We take some time, you take some time for yourself. And listen, sometimes it's exactly what we need. But I want to challenge something tonight. What if some of the things we are calling self care are not actually taking care of us at all? What if they're just helping us avoid what hurts? You can binge watch for 6 hours and call it decompressing. You can isolate and call it protecting your peace. You can work 7 days a week and call it ambition. You can live in the gym, call it discipline. And none of those things are automatically unhealthy. The question is never the behavior, the question is why you're doing them. Because there's a difference between something that soothes you, something that restores you, and something that helps you avoid yourself. So tonight, we're going to find that difference. So, welcome, Leanne. Listen, I avoid everything if I can decompress in the pool, the lake, the ocean. We're going to dive into that because some of those things that genuinely is decompressing, you know. But welcome back, everyone, to the Mental Warrior 22 show. I am your host, Alex Bonilla. This show is built for anyone carrying the weight that they didn't ask for, whether you're a veteran, a first responder, moms holding a household together, dads who may have never been taught how to rest, or even the kids trying to figure how to feel their feelings for the first time. If you're breathing and you're tired, then welcome. This is for you. So, as we all know, August is National Wellness Month. You've seen it everywhere. You hear it everywhere. Drink more water. Take a mental health day. Set a boundary. None of that's bad advice. It's actually pretty good. But this month, I want to hand you one question instead of a checklist, right? One question you can carry into every single choice that you can make moving forward. And it's simple. Ask yourself, is this helping me heal or is this helping me hide? That's what I want you to ask yourself. Is this helping me heal or helping me hide? Say that back to yourself right now if you need to. Is this helping me heal or is this helping me hide? That question is going to run through most of the stuff that we talk about tonight. Sometimes the war inside isn't obvious. Sometimes it looks productive. It looks like discipline, and sometimes it even looks like self-care. Good evening. So here's the distinction that matters more than any habit tracker or wellness app. All right, there are three categories your behavior can fall into, and they can look identical from the outside. Soothing. Soothing is a short-term relief, right? It's not evil. It's not bad. Soothing can be a hot shower after a really long day, listening to a good song or a playlist on your drive home, 5 minutes of doing absolutely nothing. Soothing gets you through the moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. Restoring is different. Restoring actually fills you back up, right? You come out the other side more like yourself, not less, right? Real rest, real connection, it's real honesty. That's restoring. Avoiding wears the exact same clothes as the first two. It looks like a break. It looks like self care. But avoiding isn't filling you up or even calming you down. It's just delaying the moment you have to feel something. That's the tricky part about it, right? Is you can't always tell the difference by watching the behavior. Two people can scroll their phone for an hour. One is decompressing on purpose. The other is running from maybe the conversation from their spouse, the bills that are piling up, a memory that may have just popped up uninvited, right? Same behavior, but these are completely different functions. So, how do you tell? Right? You ask that anchor question: is this helping me heal or is this helping me hide? Again, we're going to keep repeating this. So, tonight I want to walk you through that by using something I built. It's called the Warrior Method, right? It's the same framework underneath the War Inside workbook. I encourage you to check it out if you have not. It is the War Inside workbook, and it's this right here. And inside, I created the Warrior Method. I'm going to show you the way that it actually works in real life, right? Not as a lecture, but a process you can probably run yourself, right? Tonight, maybe even in your own head. So let's start with the first letter from Warrior, the W, right? We're going to say the first step is wake up. The first step is wake up. Wake up, awareness before change. You can't change a coping mechanism you keep calling self-care. You have to wake up and have awareness on that, right? So ask yourself honestly right now, what do I reach for when I don't want to feel something? What do you reach for when you don't want to feel something? Is it your phone? Is it food? Is it alcohol? Medication? Is it work? Right? You reach for more hours, you stay working late. Is it the gym? Do you shop a lot or isolate yourself? It's that constant busyness, right? And I'm not asking you to judge it. I'm asking you to notice it, right? We're talking wake up first. So let's make this a little more concrete, right? Because I want you to actually recognize yourself somewhere in these next few minutes. Busyness as purpose, right? This is, again, the dad working the extra hours, the mom overcommitting to every school event, every favor for every friend, the veteran that fills every open hour so there is no quiet time to sit in their own thoughts. That's not purpose, that's avoiding. That's avoidance wearing a to-do list. Numbing as a relaxation, right? The scrolling, the binging a show for the fourth straight night, a drink to take the edge off. None of that can be automatically a problem. The real test is what happens when you try to stop. If 10 minutes of silence with no phone makes your skin crawl, that discomfort is information. It's trying to tell you something, right? Isolation as boundaries. Boundaries are real. And boundaries matter. But there's a difference between a boundary and a wall. Because a boundary says, I need space, but I'll come back. A wall says, nobody gets close enough to get in or to hurt me. And toughness as strength. A lot of people, a lot of veterans, and first responders watching right now know this one, right? We're trained, sometimes literally trained, to push it down and keep moving. That training, again, saved your lives in the moment it was built for. That's what it was built for. But strength that never bends will break. Real strength includes the ability to say, I'm not okay, without treating that sentence like you failed. You don't have to fix any of this yet. Just wake up to it. That's what the W is for right now. I want you to wake up to this, right? Name what you reach for. So we go into the A. Linda, embrace the suck. Absolutely. So, A, the next step is to accept. Accept. And this is where I want to pull the shame out of the room, right? Maybe that coping mechanism got you through something real. Maybe there was a season where shutting down, staying busy, or keeping everybody at a distance protected you. And I don't want you to hate yourself for surviving. You should not. It came at a time where that was vital in your life. But here's the part that matters just as much. Something helping you survive yesterday doesn't automatically mean it's helping you live today. The habit that once kept you alive can be the same exact habit that's keeping you stuck. Both things can be true. Acceptance, it doesn't mean the coping mechanism was wrong. It means you stop defending it the second somebody, even you, points it out, right? I've seen this happen over and over. You'll see it in peer groups and messages. Um, After the episode airs, someone names a pattern. Honestly, you know, my workouts, my workouts may have been avoidance, and the very sentence out of their mouth is a defense, right? But it's still healthier than drinking. But at least I'm not hurting anybody. All of that is true. But defending it instantly, the instant you name it exactly, like it is exactly how it stays in the same place for another 10 years. Now you're excusing it, right? It's like excusing someone's crappy behavior towards you. So that's acceptance. And again, acceptance can be a hard one because a lot of times we're not willing to accept it because, like I just mentioned, we want to defend everything, right? We can see it in everybody else, and we're quick to call people out for their bullshit. But when it's us, oh, we will justify the hell out of it. So even though it may not be hurting anyone, and I'm guilty of that, there was a point where I refused to want to sit still. And so 4:30 in the morning, I would wake up and do 10 to 12-mile hikes. Then I'd go to work, and then I'd go to the gym, and then I'd go take another walk because I didn't want to sit still. And I called that discipline. I was like, hell yeah, look at me. I'm pushing through everything. But I was avoiding a whole lot of things. And when people asked me, my justification was always the same. What? Why you hating on me? I'm not out in the streets drinking or doing drugs. I'm not hurting anybody. Truth is, I was hurting myself, right? Because I was avoiding putting in the work. I was avoiding sitting with what was really going on. Deborah, I agree 100%. We have to forgive the betrayal of the lie or whatever it is for you, but never forget the lesson that it taught us. Absolutely. So, how many of you struggle with acceptance, with accepting that there is that avoidance, accepting that maybe, that maybe I'm not decompressing, you know, maybe me sitting here for the fourth straight night binge watching a show isn't me trying to relax, but I'm avoiding something else. How many of you are willing to actually have that conversation with yourself and sit with that? Because that's probably one of the toughest things. Like I mentioned a moment ago, you you can call it out and spot that in someone a mile away. If it's your kids, if it's a friend, somebody, it's easy. But when it's you, are you willing to call it the same thing? Linda, embrace the suck. Absolutely. Absolutely. And to touch base on one of the comments, Leanne, decompress at a pool, a lake, an ocean. When you're at the pool, the lake, or the ocean, do you feel you're decompressing, or are you avoiding maybe sitting at home, dealing with stuff, your emotions, feelings, certain things you should sort through? Or is that your happy place? And you can sit there for a couple of hours and it gives you perspective and allows you to then go and deal with the stuff you have to deal with. That's something that to think about. So that brings us to the first R, which is reflect. Now, let's go underneath the behavior because this is reflect. Instead of asking, why do I scroll so much? Ask, what happens when I put the phone down? What happens when you put the phone down? Because I didn't think that doom scrolling was a thing until I found myself an hour in after I swore I was just watching one video that someone sent me. And yes, JoJo, two things can be true. It's about balance. It is. It is. But that's where the waking up part is understanding, right? Two can be true. And it doesn't make all those things or any of those things unhealthy because you can be a gym rat and you can do all those things and still go home and put in the work to whatever it is that you need to, right? You can, I hit the gym and I leave it all on the weights, but now I have a clear mind. Now I'm not approaching problems through anger or through any other emotion. I can put that aside and better approach certain problems. So it's not running from the things, it's helping me decompress. The mom sitting in her car before she walks into the house, right? Because the kids are all over the place, the house is chaotic, whatever it is, right? Or maybe the mom, the boyfriend, the spouse, whomever, there's problems. That's decompressing if you're able to reset and then go inside the house and approach those things. So instead of asking, why am I always working? Ask yourself, what am I left with when I'm not busy? What am I left with when I'm not busy? To some of you, stay at work a little longer because you don't want to deal with the nonsense at home, or make a pit stop somewhere, right? Like I'm going to walk through Hobby Lobby or someplace just because I'm not ready to go home yet. And yes, the driveway time, listen, with the right playlist, I'm in the studio. Sometimes I'm not ready to go in the house yet. But again, it's decompressing as long as you're not avoiding the things you need to work on, right? So instead of asking why I don't want to be around anybody, ask, am I actually resting or am I withdrawing? Because here's the truth that this step, that reflect, is built on, right? This behavior isn't always a problem. Sometimes the behavior is protecting you from the problem, right? Sometimes getting away from everybody, it's just protecting you from the problem, right? That mom that I mentioned earlier who reads to her kids every night, and which is a great thing to do. But when she got honest with herself, she realizes that half hour wasn't really about the kids. Maybe it was the one door she could close on everybody, including maybe her own thoughts. The behavior isn't the issue. It was doing a job that she never got to name out loud. Reflection is where you find out what job your coping mechanism has actually been doing for you this whole time. That coping mechanism, the sitting in the driveway, jamming out, is it doing its job at helping you decompress? Or are you just prolonging and trying to forget whatever stuff you have to do? So here's the next one. And by the way, I know I'm not the only one who, in the studio, in the car, jams out. And I know I'm not the only one that will sit there and finish the song before I go into the house if it's a good jam. So the next one is going to be respond. Danielle, random concerts in the driver's seat on the way home. Absolutely. I think that, and nothing's more annoying than when you're like hitting that high note and you swear that you sound like them, and then a phone call comes in, or the map wants to talk to you. That's the worst. Now I got to start the song all over again. So moving on. The next one is respond. Once you know what's underneath, once you can reflect, right, we move to respond. Now, this is where we pivot from awareness more into action. All right. So if you realize you're scrolling because you're lonely, taking away your phone or taking the phone away doesn't solve your loneliness, right? If you're overworking because you don't want to go home and sit with whatever it is you're feeling, a vacation doesn't always necessarily fix that either, right? You have to respond to the need underneath the behavior, not just the behavior itself. So ask yourself plainly, what do I actually need right now? What do you need right now? Is it connection? Is it rest? Do you need support? Or how about a boundary? Some of you may need space to grieve. Some of you may need space to grieve, or a hard conversation that you've been avoiding. Maybe professional help. Sleep. I know I need sleep. Um, Forgiveness, maybe either for somebody else or even for yourself. Whatever that answer is, that's the actual target, right? Not the habit, right? The need underneath it. So respond. How many of you are already in the response stage, right? Like you understand what the root is, what's underneath. How many of you understand already that you just may be longing for that connection for the rest? Or put a thumbs up in the comment if you're ready to move into the response stage, right? Like, listen, I'm ready to get to the root of this and push forward. If you're there, put a thumbs up. Let me know. Also, what part may you be in? If you don't mind sharing it, I'd like to know. If you are in that need of connection or rest or sleep, whatever it is, it's understanding that. Well, I am going to take a moment to also answer any questions that you guys may have because I am curious to what you guys are thinking or questions you might be having about this so far. So we've covered the W, the A, the R, and the second R, right? In the warrior method. I understand that my purpose to avoid certain situations or certain people are usually due to disrespect. Oh, let's talk about that disrespect. Um, Now, because obviously disrespect can mean a million things to us. No one can, and it's understanding no one can trigger you. You get triggered, but they can't trigger you. And the disrespect is based on what? And this is something that I've struggled with for a long time because for me, for a long time, everything was like, no, I will not tolerate this disrespect. But I realized that it was only really disrespect because I cared too much about their opinion about me. Their opinion in the moment, whether I wanted to admit it or not, mattered more than my own. So that one's tough for me because I struggled with that for a long time. The level of disrespect. And it's the same thing. When I felt there was a disrespect or there was something negative, I kind of avoided a lot of things and I isolated. And it wasn't until I got to a better place that I realized their opinions really didn't mean shit. And it was disrespect because I made their opinion much more important than it probably should have been. Right. So it's something to think about. But it also didn't change the fact that you avoided certain situations and people, but you notice it. And like, that's huge. That is huge that you notice that. Bethany, self awareness is quite the journey, that's for sure. It is brutal. Self awareness is brutal because that just requires you being brutally honest with yourself and your own bullshit. That, like, you don't even need someone to tell you because you're now telling yourself. You're now calling yourself out and holding yourself accountable, which is beautiful. But initially, you will want to push back a whole lot. So I'm going to take a moment to pay the bills, and we're going to jump into the next letter, which is going to be the I. So let's pay the bills. What you wear says something about who you are. At Mental Warrior 22, we don't just create apparel. We represent resilience, purpose, and the decision to keep moving forward. Wear the mindset, live the mission. Shop the Mental Warrior 22 collection today at mw22.org/shop. Combat Coffee Company, veteran owned, mission driven, built for those who never quit. Whether you're starting your day or chasing your next goal, Combat Coffee Company keeps you fueled for the mission ahead. Fuel for the mission, one cup at a time. If you've ever felt like you're surviving instead of living, this book is for you. The War Inside isn't about pretending life is easy. It's about understanding the battles we fight in our own minds and finding a way forward. If you're ready to stop living in survival mode and start reclaiming your life, pick up your copy today. The War Inside, available now on Amazon and mw22.org. All right, welcome back, people. Welcome back. So, can anyone tell me what the first letter we covered was? What the W was? You guys didn't know we were going to have a pop quiz, right? But for anyone who is joining us late, what we're talking about is the warrior method, which is from my workbook. And in the back of the workbook, you'll see the letters that spell out warrior, and each letter represents something different. And what we're trying to do here is implement that in this show. Let's do this like real world, right? So, yes, Linda, wake the up, right? That was the first one. It was waking up. It is understanding the awareness before you can do any change, right? That is the first letter. So, what was the A? The next letter was the A, which was accept, right? The second one was accept. And it's accepting what the behavior is, right? Okay. Is this helping me or hurting me? Okay. Is this helping me or hurting me? So we talked about that, right? And I want you guys to remember something that I said earlier that we're going to continue to mention. And I want you to ask yourself throughout this show, anytime you're feeling some type of way, whenever you got something going on, right? Is this helping me heal or is this helping me hide? Is this helping me heal or helping me hide? Right? So the A was accept. And the first R is reflect. Right? Because we need to reflect on this, right? This is where we went underneath the behavior of what's really going on, right? This was, rather than asking yourself, why am I constantly scrolling on my phone? Like, ask yourself what happens when I put the phone down? What happens when I put the phone down? You know, what happens if I don't work as many hours? What happens if I am not as busy? What do you do at that time? Does it freak you out? So, how many of you may sleep with the phone next to you, and as soon as you wake up, that's the first thing you reach for, right? And it's where I go back to the justification, right? The defending part is, do you justify it by, yeah, I reached for it because my alarm went off? Or you turn off that alarm and leave the phone alone? I think about those things because for me, I try to keep my phone further away for a couple of reasons. I used to want it further away from me, so I had to get up and go turn it off. And once I was up, I'm up. I also want it away from me because I know that there are days where, if I'm being honest, there are days where sometimes I wake up tired. And it's not the tired that like sleep can help. You just sometimes you're tired. That if you've ever dealt with depression or any of that stuff, like it comes in waves. And it doesn't mean you're gonna do anything or hurt yourself or any of that stuff. No, but some days you wake up and you're like, it's kind of like waking up on a Monday, knowing that you're gonna have a crappy day. So you kind of wake up and you're like, and if I have the phone next to me, I might reach for it. I might want to do that. So yeah, you're right, Linda. Moving the phone to another room, that helps because it at least keeps it away from you being able to reach for it easily. Right? I put it on do not disturb and across the room. I am going back to that. I used to get teased about it that whenever I put my phone on do not disturb, my family used to say that I was a psycho. I didn't care. What if it's an emergency? And I've come to the realization that one, if you call me instead of 911, you already messed up. Two, what can you, like if it's an emergency, what can I do from wherever I'm at? Like my kid is with me. That's all the family, that immediate family I have, right? And the people who I trust the most can't get through. So if you message me at 9:01, you're gonna hear back from me at 6 or 7 a.m. So what's up, Theo? Theo, I got you. We will talk after this. Um, so the next thing was respond, right? That was the pivot from awareness, right? That was where we talked about if you realized that you were scrolling because you were lonely, then at that point, putting the phone away isn't going to solve the problem, right? So it's how do you respond to that? So the I, which is invest. The next step is to invest, and I want to like I have to tell you this, even though I'm pretty sure you're well aware that real self care isn't always going to be comfortable, right? Sometimes self care is going to therapy. Sometimes it's going to therapy. Sometimes it's asking for help. Sometimes it's saying no to something or someone that you would normally say yes to, right? Sometimes self care looks like you apologizing first. Um, Sometimes it's getting 8 hours of sleep instead of watching one more episode. No matter how good it is, it'll be there tomorrow, right? Sometimes it's it's picking up the phone and telling somebody, I'm not doing so well. I'm not doing great today. Sometimes it's going for the walk when every part of you wants to stay home and isolate or watch that next episode. Self care is brutal and it isn't always going to feel good at the moment. Sometimes it's exactly like it's what actually does you good, it's what you actually need, right? And that's the whole difference, again, between soothing and restoring that we started earlier, right? Soothing asks, what feels good right now? Restoring asks, what will I be grateful for tomorrow that I did today? And that's something I want you guys to think about. Like, what what are some things that you can be grateful for tomorrow that you did today? Linda, sometimes it's buying a motorcycle. I'm yes, absolutely. I like that. So Now we move to the O, which is own. Own. And I don't want to ask anything of you tonight that I haven't asked myself, but for a long time, my version of coping was dressed up as self-care was work, right? When I worked in the mental health clinic, I would work a ton of hours. I would take up being on call. I would do stuff. I would keep myself occupied, right? When I started working with nonprofit organizations, I kept volunteering for everything and wanting to continuously, do stuff, volunteer. And I chalked that up as I just want to help. But I didn't realize that at the moment I was also running from my stuff. You know, this year, building this foundation, creating the workbook, um, preparing for other future engagements, hopefully, you know, uh, going to New Mexico for a speaking engagement, which, by the way, Linda is also going to be at. Um, you know, I was filling every hour with missions, and and the mission is not a bad thing, right? Because the foundation matters. It matters deeply. But there was a season where I could tell you exactly how healing this work was for other people. And I cannot tell you the last time I sat still long enough to ask how I was doing. I was pouring out of a cup I hadn't filled in months and calling the pouring itself my self care, right? That was my self care, but I'm helping people, but I wasn't filling my cup. Owning it doesn't mean I stopped the work. It meant I stopped using the work as the only place I was allowed to feel useful. And I started building an actual stillness, actual honesty with people closest to me without treating it like the time was stolen from the mission, right? That's something that we struggle with. Ownership isn't punishment. I can acknowledge I've been avoiding something without calling myself weak. I can admit that I've been coping instead of healing without being ashamed of it. Ownership is simply this, right? Now that I see it, what am I going to do with it? And we talked about that, right? Owning your stuff isn't easy because we want to be defensive about everything, right? So owning up to your stuff, it takes a different level of emotional maturity and emotional intelligence to recognize, like we mentioned earlier, this have the self-awareness that there is a problem and you owning up to it, right? Like, okay, maybe it was me. Maybe I did this. Deborah, the lesson I learned from that and everyone listening is that people will treat you the way you allow them to. Set your boundaries and standards, and eventually peace will follow. I own the mindset, especially when I changed my playmates and playground. Then my healing began. Make no mistake, this doesn't happen overnight. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, you should never change who you are as far as if you're a loving person and you're kind and you are a giving person and you're constantly getting screwed over. Like, don't change who you are. Just change who you're giving that to, right? You you remove yourself from that situation because that circle is a cage. It's not helping you. So yes, you set healthy boundaries. We've mentioned a few episodes ago that the only people who have a problem with your boundaries are those who can no longer benefit from your lack of. So having those standards and those boundaries, as we mentioned a moment ago as well, isn't have is a difference between that and having a wall. It's protecting you, but you're still there. The wall is keeping everybody out. And you're right, it doesn't happen overnight, right? Because it's going to be the constant reminder, especially when the people you're trying to separate yourself from, it's, let's say, family. So you deal with them on a regular, spouse, um, your kids, work. So it makes it a little more difficult, right? So this brings us to the last R, which is rise. So let's talk about rise for a minute, because rising doesn't mean you are never coping again, right? You're human. And like Deborah mentioned, this doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. So it's going to be constant. And us as humans, we are meant to fall, right? Our life is never going to be like this. You know, if you've heard me say this before, imagine being hooked up to a monitor at a hospital. When the line goes like this, you're gone. You no longer exist. You're dead. And we're not meant to remain stagnant. We're not meant to, like, no. Our life is meant to have highs and lows. It's going to go up and down. That's our life. You can't appreciate love and joy without experiencing the sadness and grief and hurt, right? It has to rain in order for you to appreciate the sunny days. Those are things that's going to happen. It's life, but it's how you approach it, right? So you're going to have nights where you're like, where you watch TV, you're going to order pizza, eat the ice cream, turn your phone off, and tell everybody to leave you alone. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection, and you're allowed to decompress, right? The goal is knowing the difference between taking the break from life versus constantly hiding from it. Okay? Yes, Linda, warriors rise. Warriors rise. That is today's theme. And that was how we can implement the warrior method, right? The warrior method, this is what it's about, right? It's waking up, it's accepting, reflect, respond, invest, own, and rise. And once you can tell the difference between what's restoring you and what's slowly draining you, then you can start to choose differently. And again, it won't happen overnight. It's going to be, you're going to recognize certain patterns. And little by little, the more you start evolving and finding you again, the more you start noticing things. And you might have that conversation with yourself, right? Whether it's like a divorce or separating yourself from people who you thought were your friends or switching jobs. And you're like, damn, I can't believe I accepted that. I can't believe I dealt with that. And you start setting boundaries, right? Nope, never again. Because now you notice it. Once you level up, you will notice those flags. So, what's going on, Matt? Amy, self care is also important. We often forget to make ourselves a priority. I think that that's something that a lot of us selfless people struggle with, right? I had a conversation earlier where we talked about just that. When you are in the industry of serving other people, there's a few things that happen with that. And one can be your heart bleeds for wanting to help other people. So sometimes that just weighs heavy on you. You carry some of that with you and you just become invested in it and you forget to pour into your own cup. Put your mask on first, right? And the conversation I had earlier was about the flip side to that, that unfortunately, your good heart is also sometimes what's causing some of the the bosses from some of these companies you work for, even some of the nonprofits, to try to take advantage of you, right? Because they know you're going to accept a crappy pay. Because let's say the veteran who wants to serve others and help, you're going to accept a crappy pay because you're going to justify it by, I just want to help. So they want to pay you the crap and they take advantage of that. And it's hard when you're in that moment because it's harder to set those boundaries. And this is where, again, it's not going to happen overnight. But at some point, you will recognize it. You will see your worth in that. Matt, my wife and son always come first until my wife tells me to get out and go play in the woods. You do know that, and it's a hard one, but self care and putting yourself first doesn't mean screw your wife and son. It just means just that, like, hey, I need to take care of me. You can put your wife and son first. I get it. I always put my daughter first. But there has to be a balance where you're putting them first, but still taking the time to fill up your own cup rather than wait for them to kick you out and tell you to go play in the woods, right? It's recognizing it. Deborah, if you feel your cup is half empty instead of half full at this moment, please remember you're beyond blessed because you have a cup. There are people that don't even have that. I like that. That is true. That is true. So, you know, all of this is exactly why I I created the War Inside workbook. Um, the book helps you understand that some of the battles that you're carrying, the workbook asks you to actually sit down and work through them, right? The reflections, there's assessments, self assessments, journaling, action, progress, right? And like we covered here, the warrior method. The warrior method gives you that framework that you can implement not just in this topic we talked about, but in other aspects of your life. You can go to the warrior method. It's the framework that you to come back to every time you think that or you feel that life is getting heavy again. Because it's life, and unfortunately, it will. It will. Life will get heavy. But this is where all of this is about, right? This is what I keep stressing this community is about. It's us being there for each other. I'm not here to fix you, just like you're not here to fix the next person. No, but it's providing a platform and a community to let you know you don't have to walk alone. We will walk beside you. We walk with each other, right? So you don't have to go through that alone. And so I encourage you, if the warrior method resonates and you want to look further into it, it's available on Amazon. It is the War Inside workbook. So here's my challenge for you this week. And for everyone listening, doesn't matter who you are, whether you are the veteran, the spouse, the parent, the first responder, none of the above, a teacher, I want you to pick one thing that you regularly call self care. Something that you call self care. And I don't want you to stop doing it. And I don't want you to judge yourself for doing it. I want you to ask yourself, what am I actually looking for when I do this? What am I looking for when I do this? Am I soothing myself? Am I restoring myself? Or am I just avoiding something? And if the honest answer is avoidance, then ask yourself more questions, right? What do I actually need? This is where this is where the real work is going to start, right? Sometimes it really is that simple. It's changing the narrative from what the voices are telling in your head, all the negativity, all that stuff. No, just ask yourself the simple questions. Something that if your kid or loved one was sitting in front of you, you would ask them, right? Like, like, what am I getting out of this? When I actually do this, is it soothing me? Is it restoring myself? Like, or am I avoiding? It really is that simple. Now, I'm not saying it's going to change everything overnight. No, but it's tools for the toolbox and a way for you to start somewhere, to have that honest conversation, to go back to reflecting, to responding, to owning it, right? Well, Amy, I always tell people on a plane, you put your mask first. Carrying that mentality in life because you are not your best for anyone if you don't care for yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's important. It really is. So, thank you, Linda. And I kind of want to go make a coffee now, but it's too late. Listen, you're telling the wrong person because for me, coffee is never too late, or it's never too late for coffee. I could drink this before I go to bed. But because not everything that gives you relief gives you recovery, right? Stop asking only, does this make me feel better? Start asking once again, is this helping me heal or is this helping me hide? There's one thing that I want you to remember is that line right there, is this helping me heal or helping me hide? And again, check out the workbook, try the warrior method with other aspects of your life. Just go through those steps and see where it applies and if it helps. And I truly, genuinely would love to know. I would love to get some feedback on that. So go make yourself a cup of coffee if you want it. Um, but if this episode resonated, if it landed with you, then please send this to someone who needs it, a parent, a friend, a fellow veteran, doesn't matter who. Um, the mission is community. It's community driven, and we do this because healing was never meant to happen alone. And I will always stress that time and time. I couldn't stress that enough, right? We are stronger together. This is what we're supposed to be about. Taking care of each other, building each other up, not knocking each other down. As soon as I get mine, I will give you feedback. Absolutely. I would love to know. But I appreciate each and every one of you for being on this show tonight. Um, Please, if you guys aren't already following the YouTube channel, go to YouTube, like, follow, subscribe, um, and check out our foundation page. It's We have the social media page. We have Mental Warrior 22 Foundation. We also have it on mw22.org where we're posting events and things, great things coming up. Um, Check out the apparel. Um, you can reach out to me anytime, any questions, any comments. But until next time, guys, I'm Alex Bonilla. This is Mental Warrior 22 show. And once again, thank you guys for being a part of this. And until next time, stay safe.